You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in.
All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Philippe Roireau, the co-founder over at Consio. Philippe, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on today.
Thanks so much, Pat, for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Excited to get to dive into Consio. So can we start out? Tell us, what is Consio, first of all?
Consio is the first phone sales platform for e-commerce. So think about like Klaviyo, but for phone. And it's really something new that like most brands haven't experienced with so far. So we're bringing a new retention channel to e-commerce and making it easily accessible. So we're pretty excited about what's to come on that side.
When you and I first got in touch, I'll be honest, I was a bit unaware of what you meant by phone sales. So specifically for the e-com scenario, can you elaborate? What do you mean when you say we provide this phone sales service?
For sure. So we're providing the platform, so the software, to help brands connect with all of their different segments of customers or prospects. So it can be like your abandoned checkout, your VIP customer that didn't purchase in a while, but that still have like loyalty points outstanding, or your subscriber that has like their subscription payments method expired or just churned. So we can help you engage contextually with all of those different customers in order to retain them or convert them through phone calls. And that's like really the last layer that's missing in the retention stack. Like people are already sending emails, already sending text messages, but having this real one-to-one conversations with your highest level of prospects or customers are going to give you like really unique insights into your business and to their behavior, as well as drive a little bit more revenue from your existing pipeline and leads of customers that you have.
And that's one of the big reasons I was so excited to get you on today is, to your point, it's still such a new concept to be using phone as a tool to get more e-com sales. I would imagine there are some e-commerce businesses listening that are saying, oh, well, my product isn't specifically right for it, or my industry isn't right for being phone sales. Are there certain industries, certain average order sizes that you blindly, let's say you say, hey, this is a really great tool for you to invest in, versus maybe other scenarios where you say, hey, I really wouldn't recommend putting the resources into this quite yet?
For sure. I mean, historically, there's one segment that we found that was already calling a little bit, and it was like more like on the supplements and subscription side of things. Several of those brands that had a little bit more of a direct response mechanism already deployed, like have potentially been calling with a little bit like of a janky system. So these guys are already somewhat doing it, but a little bit manually. And in the same vein, a wider range subscription businesses within their community have been like telling one another to call their dunning subscription. And a dunning subscription is when a credit card is not valid anymore on your subscription platform. So you want to call those people to like get them to update their payment method, just like gym memberships. Like, I don't know if you ever had a gym membership and then like your credit card is expired throughout your yearly subscription and they're calling you back. They're like, hey, you need to update it in order to keep coming. But for some reason, a lot of e-commerce businesses have not really been doing that up to now. So really the first use cases of people that have already been doing it, I would say, are subscription and supplements specifically. But right now we're finding a lot of legs with like higher AOV brands. So anything that will sell like over $200 really like is finding success, but like specifically like furnitures, like with the thousands of dollars or like over $1,000 like AOV, it is just like extremely profitable for them right now to engage their customers and especially their abandoned checkout in that segment through phone. So like higher AOV supplements right now makes a lot of sense. But our assumption is that this can become so efficient that like any brand will be able to roll this out like profitably to their customers. And we're not talking yet about like AI components. As it goes on, like we think that really every brand that has an AOV like over $50, $60, $70 should be able to like find profitable segments to hit on the phone.
You've hit on some great use cases. One, the abandoned cart checkout. Two, a subscription product, let's say, where the credit card or bank account gets declined, whatever it may be, purchase doesn't go through, calling them up and saying, hey, payment method didn't go through. How do you want to reprocess this payment? Are there other use cases that you would say you're finding a lot of benefit for those e-com businesses that have the $100 or more average order value?
Right. Well, in the abandoned checkout specifically, like what we've found so far is really interesting is that there's like new layers of insights that you've never kept before that you can capture by calling your churn subscribers or your abandoned checkouts. And specifically, like we've heard from multiple brands now that they're engaging with abandoned checkouts and are finding out that if they're calling a little bit too far after the event happened, like they're finding out the people that were in the checkout actually purchased the item, but like from a competitor or from somewhere else and so on. And now they're really finding who they're competing against and how they need to tune in their offer in order to be competitive against the other ways where a consumer might go and purchase. Because think about it. If you're not talking to your customer, like when after they didn't complete their purchase, you're actually never going to hear that. Like, when are you going to hear like, oh, I actually bought like a similar product from another retailer or somewhere else? So those are really unique insights that help you position your brand and get more insights into your customer behavior. That's really, really interesting so far. Like we've found that. And also like, I'd say related to that is about talking to your customer that recency equals relevancy. So the more recent like a lead is into your e-commerce funnel, the more relevant your phone call is going to be to them. Like if you like send a list, let's say to a call center, and you call a week later or a month later, they won't find the same type of receptiveness, and people will have forgot their purchasing experience or that they even visited that website. But if you call like in a very short time window after the event happened, then they will actually appreciate your call. And we found like that people are really actually excited about receiving those calls when it's very recent event. So yeah, there's like really unique insights that you will get like over the phone that you're right now just not getting on any other channel.
And I mean, to your point, yeah, I guess that's true. You know, what sort of customer is going to send you an email or call you up on the phone and say, hey, I didn't decide to purchase your product. I ended up buying from this other person. Here's why I didn't buy from you. If you can call them up on the phone, maybe you can glean some of those insights.
It might one that you'll discover if it was like shipping time that they offered better, or like a slightly bigger discount, or something even in your checkout was broken. Yeah, so those are really interesting nuggets of information for sure.
Have you started to see any data about maybe general time windows that are considered to be like acceptable to make the call on that abandoned cart checkout? Because I'd imagine there's that scenario where you get someone, I'm thinking from my own personal experience, if I'm planning on buying something, maybe I pull it up on my laptop, I get distracted, I close my laptop and I say, oh, I'm going to buy this thing 30 minutes from now. If I got a phone call from the brand 15 minutes later, I'd probably be like, whoa, chill, dude. You know, I'll get to it. Give me a minute. But have you found any data about what is a good general time window to wait before calling?
100%. I think like right now what we're seeing is around like between 4 and 24 hours. Yeah, it's good to have a little cool down period to your point. And a lot of like the recent abandoned checkouts or cards or recent churn subscriber, anything like if they get a first nudge through email or SMS, and they were just like waiting for that extra discount or something, they will usually like convert with that. But if there was something a little bit more profound, like if they went like started shopping somewhere else, or if they really got distracted and not like necessarily wanted it like after a reflection because they were missing some information or something, to your point, like giving them a little bit of time to digest, to hit on the phone channel is not a bad idea. We're really seeing like that kind of 4 to 24 hour and stretch it to 48, like kind of at most, being like the sweet spot for engaging the first time your customers on the phone. But then also there's an element of you want to retry a few times. So like you want to have a mechanism to retry the phone number automatically, because like they won't necessarily answer the first time. We know that people like are pretty flaky these days in general. If you want to hit like a 30-35% pickup rate, you'll need to try the phone number like maybe 2 or 3 times in general.
And this is fascinating. So let's say, you know, for the brands that are sitting here that are saying, all right, Phil, you've convinced me this is something I'm going to start building out. Assume they've never done phone sales for their e-com brand before. Let's talk through how that brand can maybe get started. Maybe not today, but how they can get started, let's say, within the next 2 to 3 weeks. What would you say are the first couple of steps that brand should really take before they sit down and like pick up the phone and start calling their potential customers?
I think the first step is realizing the amount of value that's sitting in your lead list that has not like converted or has churned or is currently dunning. And it's just being able to visualize how much money has been left on the table. Like that's going to be a little bit like, yeah, maybe I should definitely try this. And there's a few ways you can do that. First of all, the easiest way is just like going to your like orders tab in Shopify, going in the embedded checkout and looking at the list of checkouts that are there that like, if you click on those, you'll see how many of them have phone numbers that are associated with them. So like, that's just going to tell you like, okay, that's already like a fair amount of people. And if you're on the subscription side, like in the same vein, like go and create a Klaviyo segment or something that will show you the list of customers that are currently in dunning or that has like recently churned, and just like see like that type of volume that you're getting in those segments. And that's going to give you a little bit of insights already is like, okay, like how many conversations could I be having that will help my business move forward with people that are fully brand aware? It's not like cold. I'm not like engaging with them cold. So I think the first way is just realizing the potential that your phone list has. And when you're looking at that abandoned checkout tab, like what's going to be striking is like there's two things I would invite you to check. Is some of the amounts, first of all, obviously, of those checkouts. You'll find like some checkouts are like in the multiple hundreds of dollars if you have usually a low AOV or potentially even like higher than that. And then if you start clicking in those, you'll also see that some of those checkouts are often people that purchased from you before. So like you'll click on this and you'll be like, hey, this person like wasn't my checkout, like a $250 order that's outstanding. I don't understand why, because they actually purchased from me like 6 months or a year ago. So they know my brand. They should be able to convert on the first step. So why are they not like a little bit more loyal to my brand when they got so close to completing their purchase? So I would just invite you to go and look and wonder why those customers' behavior exist and wonder if you already have some answers around like why your customers are behaving this way. And that's the first step. And then if you want to start like easy, well, I know some larger furniture brand that are actually calling manually, like the owner is calling from his cell phone, like his abandoned checkouts to understand why. And not to understand why, right now he knows why, because he probably logged over 500 calls this year manually from his cell phone. But if you just want to give it a task, like, yes, then like call manually, just download this list, call manually from your cell phone, key in the thing or send an SMS after just like, hey, this is the owner of which company, and send them an SMS from your phone and see what happens. To log 10 calls, 20 calls. It's the hard work though. It's the non-gratifying, like hard work, but it pays off if you try it for your brand.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I can imagine no e-com owner out there is sitting there, wakes up, let's say at 7 a.m, says, all right, I'm excited to make 100 phone calls to people who almost made a purchase, but not quite. But to your point, I think that's one of the things that oftentimes holds people back is thinking like, oh, well, if I'm going to do that, I have to set up a specific business phone number and I have to build out all these other workflows behind the scenes. But to your point, version 1, you can start out simple. You can just pick up your cell phone and say, hey, why don't I just go into this kind of blind and see what happens? If it's my business, I should have a pretty good understanding of any question they're going to throw my way. Even if you don't get a ton of sales in the beginning, the amount of data that you can pick away from that, the opportunities to potentially find issues, as you said, in your checkout system that are causing all sorts of sales issues, that value is immense.
The bright side, though, to counter what you just said, is like you should be able to get like a sale like within the first hour that you're doing this. So, and even if it's non-optimized from your cell phone, pretty slow process right now, I'm pretty convinced that if you're able to engage normally with people, you'll be able to close something out of it because those people are really like brand aware. So like you'll be able to get, and you'll find like really easy reasons to counter like, or to rebut an argument about why somebody didn't convert at that moment. And hearing them, especially from the owner, more than like even an agent, like is going to be really reassuring for a customer, and you'll be able to convert something.
We'll keep this person anonymous, but you mentioned this furniture company. The owner is the one who's saying, hey, I don't mind pounding the pavement and making these phone calls to get these extra sales. It's worth it for my business. You mentioned they've made 500 phone calls at this point. That leads to my next question. Is there a certain amount of phone calls or other certain signs that maybe a founder should look to say, okay, you've done enough of the phone calls manually, you really need to start thinking about delegating this. This is something that you should really be handing off to someone else.
I mean, if you've tried it and it converted a couple of times manually and that your list that you looked at, like your different like segments of like warm leads that could be re-engaged with are large enough, yes, you should put a process in place to optimize the workload that goes into that. And once the workload is optimized through a platform like Consio, or if you build your own a little bit more jiggered system, which is going to be a lot of work, let's face it, you should be able to log like at least 30 plus call an hour. So yeah, that's the kind of velocity, minimum velocity, I'd say, that somebody that uses our platform or that has more experience doing that should be able to accomplish. And with that type of velocity, if your leads are recent and you have like good segments and a good like offer as well, and good deliverability on your phone number, then you should be able like to be very profitable on that segment if you're including your agent time hour. Because at the end of the day, software has a small cost, but like the real cost on this thing is the agent hourly rate that goes into executing this task. But yeah, that's at that point, what we're seeing right now is like anybody that has like over $150 to $100 AOV, like is profitable out of the bat. I have a small probiotics brand that has like a more $70, $60 AOV, but the LTV is like closer to 200. And we're like pretty much break even on the first like phone sales. But we know that like behind the LTV also justifies it. So that's like the more like subscription aspect of the business allows you, because you have so much predictability on your LTV, to accomplish that kind of task as well.
Brilliant. So, for that founder who's getting ready to start hiring one person or maybe a couple of people to help them and really to take over these phone sales, how does Consio help with the process?
Right. Well, so the process is actually like simple, but it requires a little bit of technicality at the same time. The first step is to organize the list and make sure that we're able to find a phone number for every single lead that might be in any of those segments. And in order to find the phone number, like if you're looking just at the contact information in Shopify, a lot of time it's going to miss the phone number. You need to look into different like objects of the CRM or other tools integration that you have, like your help desk or your email providers like Klaviyo. First of all, we're organizing your list and what we call like waterfalling the data so that we can find more phone numbers for a specific customer in multiple places in your tech stack. So we're helping with this and really preparing the best list for your team. And then we organize this list with an algorithm of who you should be calling in order to have the highest level of success. So for example, we're prioritizing newer leads over a second or third call in a sequence, right? Or if you have like a scheduled callback at a certain moment, that's going to get prioritized as well. Eventually, relatively soon, we'll be able to also like prioritize, for example, cart amount. Right. So if like the total amount that they have outstanding or the total amount that they spend over time as well, it's going to be like a prioritization criteria. So we have this list and then we have this UI for the agent that like provides a semi AI generated or AI augmented script for each call. So if you're calling someone like on a event checkout segments versus like somebody on a welcome flow or like a Dunning subscription flow, where you're always going to have the right context. So that's what Consio really helps with. It's just like building the perfect list and contextualizing every call so that your agent or yourself like can do really a lot of calls with very little guesswork on what should be said or how you should handle every single lead. And then the last thing really is just being able to report on performance. So we're measuring automatically like the conversions that are happening from those calls. There's another element I will say just before that is a lot of the calls that you will make will land on voicemails. And recording voicemails are like a huge time suck when you're doing phone sales. So we automate the voicemail process. So if you build a sequence of phone calls that say, hey, you want to try to call 3 times, each with one day separately, your abandoned cart will allow you to like build voicemail sequencing that if you hit the first time like a voicemail, you'll leave automatically a certain voicemail. Second time, maybe you decide not to leave a voicemail. And third time, you decide to leave a different one. So we'll always allow you to like in one click drop without having to re-record it, the right voicemail for a person, depending on where they are in the call sequence. And that saves a lot of time and allows you to just like power through your list much faster. And the last thing I was referring to is just really being able to report on performance. So we're going to track automatically if a sale was made from a conversation with a customer within 7 days of having that conversation. And what I love about phone attribution, I was previously a senior vice president at Nordbeam, which is a attribution analytics platform. And what I love about phone sales is compared to like any other marketing channel or email or SMS or your ads, it's going to be really hard to argue that like any other channel had like a more important impact in the conversion of a sale than actually talking to the person. If you're having like a real one-to-one conversation with somebody, like you can be sure that the value of this conversation can really be attributed back to the agent and the campaign that engaged with that prospect, right? So we're really excited about like giving the power to sales agents to really demonstrate the value that they're having, and the total sales that an e-com store is generating.
I think this is the last area that we'll go into, just to be respectful of your time today. But let's say for that founder who's sold, they say, hey, I want to work with Consio. I've been doing, maybe they've done 100 of these sales. And now they say, hey, I really want to start delegating this. I want to start scaling it up. What are maybe some of the key traits that you'd recommend that they look for to hire a sales agent who paired with Consio is going to be able to help them to achieve way better ROI and really take this task off their plate every day?
Great question. There's a few things. I would say first, somebody that's motivated by the payout. Because like we're suggesting here that compared to a customer service agent, like there should be another layer of incentive on top of a base salary here that like they get a percentage or like a dollar amount for every sale that they closed. It's like, and that's the first thing that really like salespeople, even if they are like offshore in the Philippines or in another country or nearshore, like in South America or in North Africa or in Eastern Europe, having this extra layer of incentive is going to already like create behaviors that are going to drive potentially like more success for your program. So like, I wouldn't just look at it like, hey, this is like my customer service, like inbound. There's like a slightly different component. But that being said, you can look in your current customer service team. And that's what like most of our customers are doing today. They're like looking internally. They have maybe 2 agents or more. And they're like, hey, who wants to try this thing? Like actually data shows that people love receiving those phone calls when it's very recent and relevant. So it's like, who wants to like actually go and engage our customers proactively and make a little bit of extra money because they already have the customer, they already have the product knowledge, they already know how those customers behave with the brand and so on. So I would say like start looking into your own. If you don't have like really, it's easy. You can go on Upwork and just post a job in 2 minutes and be like, hey, I'm looking for a calling agent. And you will receive like 25 applicants within the first few hours of you posting this thing. And the third thing, if you visit our website, consio.ai, you'll see that we have like a partner section, which lists different BPOs. So BPOs are kind of outsourced like call centers. And those BPOs usually do a lot of inbound customer service for e-com brands, but also all started doing outbound as well recently. And they're all familiar with the Consio platform in some capacity. So they can help you staff your team and they will manage the whole process from recruiting, managing the performance and making sure that they're hitting like their quotas or their activity level that are expected in such a function. So that would be another way that you can easily find someone. But yeah, find somebody that's motivated a little bit by the payout. And then obviously that's like outgoing and that can talk relatively well about your product, like in voice, on a voice channel. Like that should already like be a great place to start.
Well, Phil, what's a good way for people to either get in touch with you or get in touch with the rest of the Consio team if they want to learn more?
Right. It's super easy. Consio.ai or phil@consio.ai. Obviously, we're always open and we're happy to help in any capacity. Also, like any way that you guys want to chat, like customer service or sales or e-commerce, we're happy to help brands like just like increase a little bit the GMV that they're driving next year.
Well, once again, everyone, this is Philippe Roireau, the co-founder over at Consio. Phil, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Pat. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.